Good afternoon, happy Thursday, and welcome to the fourth of my Facebook Lives this week. Before I get started, as always, I'm going to quickly share this over to my Facebook group business class. Let's just find me first. Here I am. Okay. If you're watching this in the replay, feel free to skip ahead. Okay, and I'm also going to add a link to the workshop that I have been chatting about all week. So if you've watched any of my other lives over the course of the week, you'll know that I am running a free workshop next Wednesday. I'll talk to you more about that in a bit later on in this live. But if you haven't yet registered for it, then I'm going to add a link now to the comments. Oops. Okay. Oops. It's very difficult to type when you're trying to rush. Okay. Okay, right. So there's now a link in the comments. If you're watching this on my Facebook page, there is a link in the comments where you can sign up for next week's workshop. And if you're watching this in my group, then I think the link will be in the description. So my name is Colette Broomhead, and I work with new online business owners, and I help them to grow their business and replace their 9-to-5 income. And I help them to do that in a way that allows their business to feel free. Because one thing that I discovered when I started my own business was that that isn't necessarily the case. In fact, more often than not, it's not the case. And you start this business thinking that you're going to have all this freedom that you don't have in your 9-to-5, this freedom of time, freedom of location, and all of this stuff. And actually, more often than not, it doesn't happen, at least not to begin with. And so my focus is to help people build a business for themselves that allows them to have that freedom, so that you're not kind of trapped having to work until the wee hours of the morning, and that you are actually making some money and not feeling like you're just working for no return, because that can feel very frustrating. So I've been going live every day this week, talking about the symptoms of not having a proper plan or strategy in place in your business, because this is a very common problem, especially when people are just getting started and not sure what to do, not sure how to plan, not sure even really what strategy is, or certainly not what strategy they should be using. And so what happens is these kind of symptoms creep into your business, and often you don't realize why. You may not even realize that they're happening until they get pointed out to you. So that's what I'm doing this week, is I'm kind of highlighting these problems that are very common. They're problems that I have experienced myself, and many, if not all, new online business owners experience these. So don't feel like if this is happening to me, that must make me some kind of, failure. That's absolutely not the case. So on Monday, I talked about when you're always kind of starting new projects, having lots of ideas, but never seeing anything through to completion. That's often a sign of not really having planned properly, and kind of not having that focus that planning and strategy gives you. The second one on Tuesday was all about creating content for content's sake. And this is a big one, where we all know we need to be creating content. We need to be kind of showing up online, posting on social media, blogging, podcasting, perhaps making videos, whatever it may be. And so often that content is created without purpose, without strategy, and without real planning. And so actually the time that's spent doing that is pretty much wasted. And it's such a shame because none of us have that much time to begin with. So, you know, to see it wasted that way is awful. That was Tuesday. So if that's something that you know that you are guilty of, then go and check that one out. And then yesterday, now, what did I talk about yesterday? Oh, disappearing. When people pull disappearing acts online. And this is really caused by, again, lack of planning. And, you know, with all the best intentions, you know, starting off kind of excited and full of motivation to post every day here, post every day there, do a weekly blog post, do a video, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, without planning, without, you know, that kind of strategy behind it, things start to fall by the wayside. You have an off day, something in your personal life means that one day you can't post, and suddenly, you know, you've been offline for a week and then maybe 2 weeks and you've disappeared. And on the online world, people's memories are short, people's attention spans are short, and they will move on. And any kind of momentum that you've gained from any consistency that you've had before that point is lost, and you kind of almost having to start again each time you do that. So while it's really easy, it's really common, it's really natural, there are ways that you can prevent that happening, and you definitely want to prevent that happening because it is damaging to your business, even if you're, you know, missing for a few days. I'm just going to check to see if we've got any comments because I'm not sure that I always see them when I'm doing this in through BeLive. Okay, don't think we do. Right, so today I'm talking about measurements and basically what you're measuring in your business, because a lot of the online business owners that I speak to aren't really measuring anything, and it's very common. It's surprisingly common that people are kind of beavering away in their business, busily getting on with, you know, creating content and creating products and doing this, that, and the other, but not actually measuring anything. And there's a big problem with that because if you're not measuring anything, you don't know if you're on the right path. You don't know if you've kind of veered off. You know, even if you've kind of set goals and everything like that, if you're not measuring anything along the way, you don't know if you've actually gone in completely the wrong direction. And even if you do know, perhaps, you know, something, you're not actually making any money, and so you realize that something's not going right. You don't know what, because you haven't measured anything, so you don't know what to fix. You don't know which area needs improving. And so it's, you know, if you're not measuring anything, I think that, you know, there's a saying, isn't there, what isn't measured can't be improved. And that is absolutely the case for your business. As always, I'm going to glance my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. So there's two issues here around kind of measurement and metrics. One is where people are just not measuring anything and they're kind of blindly just kind of busying away in their business without really having any idea as to, you know, what their performance is, what's working well, what's not working well. So of course that's going to always be dangerous for your business. The other thing that I see a lot is people measuring things, but it's all vanity metrics. And I'm sure you've heard the term vanity metrics. So these are your, you know, Facebook likes, your blog views. Now, I'm not saying these metrics aren't useful. They can be if they are being measured as part of a strategy. If you know why you're measuring them and what you're going to do about it, you know, and how this is going to actually take you closer to your goals. But the problem I see over and over again, and that I have absolutely been guilty of myself, is people get caught up in these measurements because I guess they give you a quick kind of boost of confidence. You know, when you see you've got another like or another follow or whatever it may be, it's kind of like a validation that, yes, hey Melanie, nice to see you. It's kind of like a validation that, yes, okay, yeah, people like what I'm doing, so we get obsessed with them. And the way that I know that this is, generally speaking, not a strategic metric is the fact that everywhere online you see these kind of like for like, follow for follow type threads. Now the problem with these threads is that you're filling up your, you know, Facebook likes, Instagram likes, whatever it may be, with people who aren't your ideal clients. You know that quality is more important than quantity, but the problem is when you get this kind of obsession with numbers and with likes and all of this kind of stuff, this kind of these vanity metrics, what happens is that concept goes out of the window, and you no longer care about whether the people who are liking and following are actually your ideal clients. All you care about is seeing that number get bigger. And what happens is you fill your page, your Instagram account, whatever it may be, with people who actually don't care about your business, who are never going to buy from you, probably aren't even going to engage with your business unless it's, you know, on one of those threads where they come and put some arbitrary comment so that you'll go and comment on theirs. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes the engagement things can be helpful, because, you know, if you've got a bit of engagement going, it means that your posts get seen by other people. But the like for likes and the follow for follows are not helpful. In fact, they can actually have a negative impact, because what happens is, you, like I say, you fill your audience with people who don't care about your business, who probably aren't going to engage again in the future, and it reduces your engagement rates. And that in turn means that your posts are going to be seen by fewer people. And so, you know, the ideal clients that you do have in your audience, they're actually less likely to see your stuff. So much better to focus on the metrics that are actually going to drive your business forward rather than the opposite. Okay. So if you're kind of sat there thinking, well, you know, what are those metrics? I don't know what they are. The answer is it will depend on your business, but it will depend. It all comes down to, and if you've watched any of my other Facebook lives this week, you will see this theme through all of them. And all of these things are happening when there is no strategy in place and no proper planning. And if you have a strategy, I talked a little bit about the difference yesterday. So I'll just mention it again in case you didn't see that. But essentially, your strategy is you kind of saying, here I am at point A, I want to get to point B, and this is the method that I'm going to use to get there. And that's your strategy. And once you've got that strategy in place, you can then create a plan as to how that's going to work. And that plan is then when you can identify the bits that you will need to measure. So let's take as a very simple example, you want to sell your product, and you're going to do that by growing your email list, okay? And you're going to grow your email list by producing a free lead magnet that you will use to attract subscribers, okay? So at the moment, point A is, I don't yet have an email list. My email list is at 0. Point B is, I want to grow my email list to 100 people so that I can sell my product to those people. And I'm going to do that. So my strategy to do that is to create a free lead magnet, which I will promote to attract subscribers. So that's your strategy. So then your plan would be, right, well, what do I need to do in order to implement that strategy? I'm going to need to create a lead magnet. I might need to do some research into, you know, what people actually want, what would make a good lead magnet. I'm going to need to set up an email account. I'm going to need to create a landing page, a registration page where people can sign up for my lead magnet, and a thank you page that people will be redirected to once they have signed up, and so on and so forth. And that's your plan. And it's by taking yourself through this plan that you can identify the areas that you will need to measure. And if you don't do that, then you won't know what to measure. And so you will end up just measuring random things that seem important, like Facebook likes. Now, in this example, Facebook likes are completely irrelevant, because we're not talking about Facebook likes, we're talking about email subscribers. And so if you haven't gone through that process of planning and thinking, well, what do I need to measure? I should probably measure the number of people visiting my landing page, and I should probably measure the proportion of those people who then actually sign up. And perhaps I'll measure the number of people who've signed up, who then open my emails. These all seem like sensible things to measure to see whether my strategy is working. And if it isn't working, at which stage is it breaking down, so that I know which point I need to focus on and fix. Make sense? So my point is, hey Cece, great point, thank you, good. I hope it's making, I'm glad it's making sense. So basically what I'm saying is, you need to have a strategy, you need to have a plan, and by doing that, you will understand the things that you need to measure. Now, I'm going to be talking more about this in my workshop next Wednesday. If you haven't signed up already, do sign up. It's completely free. And I'm going to be taking you through my own framework. Now, this is a simple framework, because what I found in my own business was that I was measuring things, but I was actually going the other way. I was measuring too much. I went through this process, all of these frustrations that I've been talking about all week. When I started my business, I wasn't getting the traction that I wanted. I wasn't making the sales that I wanted. And so I kept adding more. My logic was, okay, well, I need to do more. I need to work harder. And so I added in strategy after strategy. Every time I saw something working for someone else, I was like, right, well, okay, that's working for them. I'm going to add that to the mix, because that's only going to improve my chances. It didn't work. And what was happening was, I was working harder and harder and harder, not getting the results still. And I knew something had to change. I had all these different things that I was measuring and trying to keep track of, and it was completely overwhelming. And so I stepped back, I looked at my business, and I figured out which of the things were actually making a difference and which weren't. And from that, I was able to create this framework and basically see a path that made sense. And it's the strategy, it's basically the how to get from A to B. And now the strategy, that the planning around that, and the kind of will differ from person to person. But in this workshop next week, I'm going to be sharing that framework. It's a 4-part framework, and it allowed me to drop so much from my business and save so much time and work so much less, and actually start seeing results faster, because I was focusing. Speaking of which, my camera seems to have suddenly lost focus. There we go, is that a bit better? Anyway, I was focusing on only the things that were actually pushing things forward, and not the things that weren't. And by doing that, it meant that not only was I focusing on the right things, but I had more time to focus on those things. And so I was seeing faster results. And I haven't looked back, and it's such a simple framework. It's something that I'm really excited to share. So as I say, if you haven't already signed up, there is a link if you're watching this on my page, the link's in the comments. If you're watching this in business class, the link's in the description. If you can't find it, let me know and I'll link to it again. But yeah, come and join me. That's next Wednesday. If you can't make it live, I will be sending out a replay to anyone who's registered, but you do need to register in order to get a copy of that replay. But do try and make it live if you can, because there'll be an opportunity to ask questions and actually get real life examples for your own business and feedback for your own business, so that you can really see how to implement the framework in your own business and kind of really kind of simplify what you're doing, know what to measure, and make life so much easier for yourself. Okay, so that's it for today. If you have any questions, give me a shout. If you haven't registered for the workshop, go and do that. And tomorrow I will be chatting about always being busy but never productive. So this is a big one. This is definitely one that I have experienced myself. So always being busy but never actually being productive. So come and join me tomorrow for that one. It should be fun. And thank you so much to those of you who have joined me live today. And thank you if you're watching the replay. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.